My name is Helen Morrison, and I'm 69 years old. I raised my son Daniel as a single mother after my husband passed away when Daniel was just 8 years old. I worked 2 jobs to put Daniel through college, helped him start his business. And when he proposed to Melissa 3 years ago, I contributed $35,000 toward their dream wedding. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for standing in the elegant ballroom of the Riverside Grand Hotel last Saturday evening, watching my future daughter-in-law Melissa walk right past me as if I were invisible. I'd just arrived at the reception, wearing the modest navy dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion. I saw Melissa greeting guests near the entrance, looking stunning in her designer wedding gown. I approached her with a smile, ready to congratulate her. "Melissa, sweetheart, you look absolutely beautiful. Congratulations." She looked right through me. Her eyes passed over my face without a flicker of recognition. Then she turned to the couple behind me, wealthy friends of her parents, and lit up with a dazzling smile. "Oh my goodness, the Hendersons. Thank you so much for coming. Your gift was so generous." I stood there, frozen. Surely she'd just been distracted. Surely she hadn't deliberately ignored me. I tried again, touching her arm gently. "Melissa." She glanced at my hand on her arm with barely concealed irritation, then looked at me like I was a stranger who'd grabbed her inappropriately. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Her voice was cold, dismissive. Before I could respond, she'd already turned away to greet more guests, leaving me standing there in shock. I felt my face burn with humiliation. Guests were staring. They'd witnessed the snub. I looked around desperately for Daniel, my son, the groom. I spotted him across the room, laughing with his groomsmen. When he caught my eye, I saw something that broke my heart, a brief flash of discomfort before he quickly looked away. My own son, pretending he didn't see me. What was happening? Why were they treating me like I was invisible? I found my assigned seat, table 18, in the back corner of the ballroom, as far from the head table as possible. I was seated with people I'd never met, strangers who barely acknowledged me. But I stayed, because even though Melissa had pretended not to know me, even though Daniel had looked away, I had something they didn't know about. I had a toast prepared, a toast that would remind everyone in that ballroom exactly who had made this wedding possible, a toast that would reveal truths Melissa desperately wanted hidden. And when the microphone was passed to me during the toasts, and it would be, because I'd arranged it months ago with the wedding planner, everyone would understand exactly why Melissa had pretended not to know me. But before I tell you what I said in that toast, before I reveal the secrets I exposed to 200 wedding guests, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you what happens when people forget who helped them reach their dreams. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to see what happens when a mother who is pushed aside decides to speak up. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today, because what happened at that wedding, what I revealed during those toasts, it changed everything. And you're going to want to hear every word. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how a mother who gave everything ended up being treated like a stranger at a wedding she helped pay for. To understand what happened at that wedding, you need to understand my relationship with Daniel and Melissa. I raised Daniel alone after my husband Marcus died in a car accident when Daniel was 8 years old. I was 32, suddenly a widow with a young son and no life insurance because we'd been young and thought we were invincible. I worked as a secretary during the day and cleaned offices at night. I made sure Daniel had everything he needed: good schools, decent clothes, activities he wanted to do. Daniel was a good kid, smart, ambitious. He got into a good college on partial scholarship, and I took out loans to cover the rest. After graduation, he started a consulting business. It struggled at first, so I helped him with startup costs, $15,000 I'd been saving for my own retirement. The business eventually succeeded. Daniel made good money. I was proud of him. When Daniel was 32, he met Melissa. She was 28, beautiful, sophisticated, from a wealthy family. Her father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. Her mother was a prominent socialite. At first, Melissa was polite to me. Not warm exactly, but civil. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Morrison. Daniel speaks highly of you." But I noticed little things. The way she'd subtly correct my grammar. The way she'd change the subject when I mentioned my work as a secretary. The way she'd steer Daniel away from me at social gatherings to introduce him to important people. After a year of dating, Daniel proposed. Melissa said yes, and that's when the wedding planning began. Melissa's parents wanted an extravagant wedding. The Riverside Grand Hotel, 200 guests, designer gown, elaborate flowers, string quartet, 5-course dinner. The total cost, $150,000. Melissa's parents were paying for most of it, $100,000. But there was a $50,000 shortfall. Melissa wanted certain upgrades, the designer gown, the elaborate flowers, the upgraded menu, that her parents thought were excessive. "If you want those things, you'll need to contribute," her father told her. Daniel and Melissa had some savings, but not enough. They needed $50,000. That's when Daniel came to me. "Mom, I know this is a lot to ask, but Melissa really wants this wedding to be perfect, and we're short on funds. Could you help?" "Daniel, I don't have $50,000. "I know, but you have the house. You could take out a home equity loan, or maybe sell it and move into something smaller." My heart sank. The house Marcus and I had bought together 40 years ago, the house I'd raised Daniel in, the house that held all my memories. "You want me to risk my house for a wedding?" "Not risk it, Mom, just use it. I'll pay you back. The business is doing well. I promise within a few years I'll pay you back every penny." "Why can't you take out a loan yourselves?" "We're trying to save for a house. We can't take on more debt right now." "But I can." "You're retired. You have equity. It makes more sense for you to do it." I wanted to say no. Every instinct told me this was wrong. But he was my son, my only child, and he was asking for my help for what should be the happiest day of his life. "How much do you need?" "We need $50,000 total, but if you could contribute even $30,000, we could make the rest work." I ended up contributing $35,000. I took out a home equity loan against my house. The monthly payments would be tight on my fixed income, but I could manage. Daniel and Melissa were thrilled. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you so much. This means everything to Melissa. You're making her dreams come true." "What about paying me back?" "Of course. Give me a couple of years to build up our savings and I'll start making payments. I promise." I should have gotten it in writing, but he was my son. I trusted him. The wedding planning continued. Melissa chose everything: the venue, the flowers, the menu, the music. I wasn't consulted on anything. When I asked if I could help with planning, Melissa said, "Oh, that's so sweet, but my mom and I have it handled. We have very specific tastes." I offered to host a bridal shower. "That won't be necessary. My mother's already planning one at the country club." I asked if I could help choose her wedding dress. "I've already chosen it with my mom, but thank you for offering." I was being shut out of everything, but I told myself it was fine. Melissa and her mother were close. It was natural they'd want to plan together. Then, 3 months before the wedding, I received the invitation. It was beautiful, thick cardstock with gold embossing, but when I read it, I felt sick. "Mr. and Mrs. Richard Henderson request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Melissa, Ann Henderson, to Daniel Marcus Morrison." No mention of me, not even son of Helen Morrison. It was as if I didn't exist, as if Daniel had sprung into existence without a mother. I called Daniel. "The invitation doesn't mention me." "What?" "It only lists Melissa's parents, not me. Traditionally, both sets of parents are listed." "Oh, yeah, I noticed that. Melissa said that since her parents are hosting." "I contributed $35,000, Daniel, more than a third of the wedding budget. How am I not hosting?" Mom, it's just tradition. The bride's parents are listed as hosts. It doesn't mean anything. It means I'm being erased. You're being dramatic. Look, the invitations are already printed. We can't change them now. Just let it go, okay? But I didn't let it go, because that invitation was a sign of what was coming. Over the next 3 months, I tried to be involved. I called Melissa to ask about her dress fitting. It's a private moment, just me and my mom. I offered to pay for the rehearsal dinner. Daniel's fraternity brothers are already handling it. I asked about seating arrangements. The wedding planner is handling all of that. I was being systematically excluded from everything. The only thing I was included in was the bridal shower at the country club. But even there, I felt out of place. All of Melissa's friends and family were dressed in designer clothes. They talked about their vacation homes and their luxury cars and their country club memberships. I wore a dress from Macy's. I didn't have vacation homes or luxury cars. When it was time to give gifts, Melissa opened elaborate presents: Le Creuset cookware, Tiffany silverware, luxury linens. My gift was a handmade quilt. I'd spent 6 months making it, embroidering their initials and their wedding date. Melissa held it up briefly. "Oh, how crafty, thank you." She set it aside without really looking at it and moved on to the next gift, a $500 KitchenAid mixer. One of her friends whispered something to another, and they both giggled while looking at my quilt. I felt my face burn with humiliation. After the shower, I tried to talk to Melissa privately. "Melissa, I feel like I'm being excluded from the wedding planning. I'd really like to be more involved." "Helen, I appreciate your interest, but my mom and I have a vision, and honestly, our tastes are quite different from yours." "What does that mean?" "It means we want a sophisticated, elegant wedding, and sometimes your suggestions are, well, a bit dated. No offense. I'm not trying to take over. I just want to feel like I'm part of this." "You are part of it. You're Daniel's mother. You'll be at the wedding, that's your role." I contributed $35,000. "And we're very grateful, but money doesn't buy you creative control. This is my wedding, Helen. Mine and Daniel's, not yours." She walked away, leaving me standing there feeling small and dismissed. I went to Daniel again. "Your fiancé just told me that my taste is too dated for your sophisticated wedding, the wedding I helped pay for." "Mom, Melissa didn't mean it like that." "How did she mean it then?" "Look, Melissa's family is. They're used to a certain lifestyle, and sometimes you come across as..." "As what? Poor, working class, not good enough for their daughter." "I didn't say that." "But that's what you meant." "Mom, please, can you just try to get along with Melissa? For me, this wedding is important. I need my mom and my wife to have a good relationship." "Then maybe Melissa should try getting along with me." "It's not all on her. You're being sensitive." That hurt. My own son, siding with his fiancée over his mother. But I swallowed my hurt, because I loved Daniel, and I wanted him to be happy. The week before the wedding, I received my seating assignment, table 18, in the back corner of the ballroom. I called Daniel. "I'm seated at table 18. "Yeah, that's where the wedding planner put you." "Daniel, I'm your mother. Why am I not at a family table near the front?" "The front tables are for immediate family and VIP guests." "I'm immediate family." "Mom, Melissa's parents have a lot of important guests. Business associates, family friends. We had to prioritize." "And I'm not a priority." "You're my mom. You'll always be important to me. But seating charts are complicated. Just trust that we did our best." "Who's at table 18? I think it's some of our college friends and their parents." "Strangers. You seated me with strangers." "They're not strangers. They're friends." "I don't know any of them. Daniel, please, can't you move me to a better table?" "Mom, the seating chart is finalized. The place cards are printed. We can't change it now. Please, can you just not make this difficult?" I gave up, because clearly nothing I said mattered. The day of the wedding arrived. I got ready in my hotel room, putting on my modest navy dress. I'd wanted to buy something nicer, but the home equity loan payments were eating into my budget. I arrived at the ceremony and was escorted to my seat, 5th row, off to the side. Melissa's parents and family were in the front row, center seats. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked who gives the bride away, Melissa's father stood up proudly. No one asked who gives the groom. No one acknowledged me at all. After the ceremony, I went to the cocktail hour. I tried to mingle, but I didn't know anyone. Melissa's family and friends formed tight circles I couldn't penetrate. Then the reception began. That's when I approached Melissa to congratulate her, and she pretended not to know me. I made my way to table 18 in the back corner. The other guests at my table were pleasant enough, but they barely acknowledged me. They were more interested in talking amongst themselves. I sat there, watching my son and his new wife at the head table, surrounded by Melissa's family, looking happy, looking like they belonged to a world I wasn't part of. But I had my toast, and when the time came, everyone would hear what I had to say. The dinner was served, an elaborate 5-course meal. I barely tasted any of it. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, the toasts. The best man went first, a funny, heartfelt speech about Daniel. Then Melissa's maid of honor, a touching speech about Melissa. Then Melissa's father stood up. I'd like to say a few words about my beautiful daughter and my new son-in-law. He gave a long speech about how proud he was, about how Daniel was now part of their family, about how generous they'd been to make this wedding happen. No mention of me, no mention of my contribution. Then the MC said, "Are there any other toasts?" This was my moment. The wedding planner had promised me I could give a toast. I'd confirmed it 3 times. I stood up. The room went quiet. People turned to look at me, this woman in the back corner that nobody seemed to know. Melissa's face went pale. She leaned over to Daniel and whispered something urgently. Daniel half stood, like he was going to try to stop me. But I was already walking toward the microphone. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding. But I had something to say, and 200 people were about to hear it. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I reached the microphone stand at the front of the ballroom. The wedding coordinator looked confused, glancing at Melissa for direction. Melissa was shaking her head frantically, mouthing no, no, no. But I'd already taken the microphone. Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Helen Morrison. I'm Daniel's mother. I saw confusion ripple through the crowd. Several of Melissa's family members exchanged glances. Of course they were confused. Melissa had spent months pretending I barely existed. I want to thank you all for being here today to celebrate Daniel and Melissa's wedding. It truly is a beautiful event. The flowers are stunning. The venue is gorgeous. The food is exquisite. I paused, looking directly at Melissa. Her face was white with panic. I'd like to share a few memories of Daniel, if you'll indulge me. You see, I raised Daniel alone from the time he was 8 years old, after his father, my husband Marcus, passed away in a car accident. I could see Daniel squirming in his seat. This wasn't the light, funny toast Melissa had probably imagined. I worked 2 jobs to put Daniel through school. I was a secretary by day and cleaned offices at night. Some weeks, I worked 70 hours so Daniel could have new shoes or go on school field trips or take the SAT prep course. The room was completely silent now. People were listening intently. When Daniel got into college, I took out loans to cover what his scholarships didn't. When he started his business, I gave him $15,000 from my retirement savings to help with startup costs. I saw Melissa's mother lean over to whisper something to her husband. They looked uncomfortable. And when Daniel and Melissa got engaged, and they needed help paying for this beautiful wedding you're all enjoying tonight, I took out a home equity loan against my house. The house where I raised Daniel, the house his father and I bought together 40 years ago, and I contributed $35,000 to make today possible. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even the people at my table, strangers who'd barely acknowledged me, were now staring at me with new understanding. $35,000, I repeated, letting it sink in. More than a third of the cost of this wedding came from a 69-year-old widow on a fixed income who mortgaged her home so her son could have his dream wedding. Melissa stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly. That's enough. But I continued, my voice steady. And yet, when I arrived at this reception tonight, the reception I helped pay for, my future daughter-in-law pretended not to know who I was. She looked right through me and said, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" The gasps were louder now. People were murmuring to each other. I saw several guests at Melissa's parents' table shaking their heads with disapproval. I'm seated at table 18 in the back corner with people I've never met. My name isn't on the wedding invitation. I wasn't included in any of the planning. I wasn't asked to be in any of the family photos. My handmade quilt, which I spent 6 months making, was dismissed as crafty and pushed aside. Melissa's face was now bright red. She grabbed the microphone from the MC. "This is inappropriate. This is my wedding day." "Yes," I said calmly, still holding my microphone. "It's your wedding day, the wedding day I helped pay for, the wedding day I was excluded from, the wedding day where you pretended I didn't exist." Daniel finally stood up. "Mom, please, can we talk about this later?" "Later, Daniel, I tried to talk about this for months. You told me I was being dramatic. You told me to just let it go. You sided with Melissa every single time." I turned back to address the crowd. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's day. I'm here to remind everyone, especially my son and his new wife, that you don't get to erase the people who sacrificed for you. You don't get to take someone's money and then pretend they don't exist." I set the microphone down and walked back toward my table. The room erupted. People were talking loudly. Some were clearly on my side. I could hear comments like, "That's terrible," and "How could they treat her like that?" Others were defending Melissa and Daniel. "She's making a scene. And this is so inappropriate." Melissa's father grabbed a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. Let's all take a moment too." But I was already gathering my purse and leaving. I couldn't stay there. I'd said what I needed to say. As I walked toward the exit, I heard footsteps behind me. Helen, wait." It was Melissa's mother, Patricia, the woman who'd barely spoken 10 words to me in 3 years. I turned around. "What?" I had no idea. About the $35,000, about any of it. "Didn't you? You knew your daughter needed money for the wedding. You knew Daniel came up with it somehow. You never wondered where it came from." "I assumed Daniel had savings, or his business." "You assumed, but you never asked. Just like you never asked why Daniel's mother wasn't more involved in the planning. Just like you never questioned why I was seated in the back of the room." Patricia looked genuinely distressed. "Helen, I am so sorry. I knew Melissa was particular about the wedding, but I didn't know she was excluding you this way. If I'd known about the money, about what you sacrificed, would it have made a difference? Would you have treated me differently if you'd known I was financing part of your daughter's dream wedding?" She didn't have an answer for that. I left the hotel and drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. What had I done? I'd just exposed my son and daughter-in-law in front of 200 people. I'd ruined their wedding reception. But they'd ruin my dignity first. When I got home, my phone was already ringing. I ignored it. It rang again and again. Finally, I answered. It was Daniel. "Mom, how could you do that? How could you humiliate us like that in front of everyone?" "Humiliate you? Daniel, your wife pretended not to know me. At a wedding I helped pay for." She was overwhelmed. There were so many guests, she didn't mean. "Yes, she did. She looked me in the eye and said, 'Do I know you?' She meant every word." "You ruined our wedding." I told the truth. If the truth ruins your wedding, maybe you should think about why that is. Everyone's talking about it. Melissa's parents are furious. Her friends are posting about it on social media. This is a disaster. I'm sorry you're upset, but I'm not sorry I spoke up. We want our money back. The $35,000. If you're going to throw it in our faces like this, we don't want it. Fine, pay me back. I have a home equity loan I'm barely able to afford. I'd love to have that money back. We don't have it right now. Then you don't get to demand I give it back. Mom, you've destroyed my marriage before it even started. Melissa is devastated. Her family is mortified. How do we come back from this? Maybe by acknowledging that you treated me terribly. Maybe by apologizing. Maybe by recognizing that I gave everything for you and you repaid me by letting your wife erase me. I can't talk to you right now. I'm too angry. He hung up. I sat in my empty house in the dark and I cried. Not because I regretted what I'd done, but because my relationship with my son might be permanently broken. Over the next few days, my phone rang constantly. I ignored most of the calls. But I did answer when my friend Margaret called. Margaret had been at the wedding. Helen, I need to tell you, half the people at that wedding are on your side. Really? Yes, after you left, people were talking. Melissa's own relatives were saying she'd gone too far. Several people came up to me asking who you were and saying they were appalled at how you'd been treated. What about the other half? They think you were inappropriate, that you shouldn't have made a scene at a wedding, that you should have handled it privately. I tried to handle it privately. For months, nobody listened. I know, honey, and for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. You stood up for yourself. It doesn't feel like a victory. I might have lost my son. Give him time. He'll come around. But days passed and Daniel didn't call, didn't text, nothing. A week after the wedding, I received a letter from Melissa's parents. Dear Helen, we are writing to express our deep disappointment in your behavior at Daniel and Melissa's wedding reception. Your speech was inappropriate, hurtful, and selfish. You turned what should have been a joyous celebration into a spectacle about yourself. While we appreciate that you contributed financially to the wedding, that does not give you the right to demand recognition or special treatment. Gifts should be given freely, without expectation of reward. Melissa is devastated by your actions. Daniel is hurt and angry. You have caused serious damage to their marriage and to our family relationships. We ask that you give Daniel and Melissa space to heal from this incident. Do not contact them. Do not try to justify your actions. Simply allow them time to decide if and when they want to resume a relationship with you. We hope you will reflect on your behavior and understand the pain you have caused. Sincerely, Richard and Patricia Henderson. I read the letter 3 times, feeling my anger grow with each reading. They were making me the villain, erasing everything that had led to that moment, pretending Melissa hadn't spent months excluding me, pretending she hadn't literally pretended not to know me. And they were telling me to stay away from my own son. I wrote a response. I rewrote it 5 times. Finally, I settled on this. Dear Richard and Patricia, thank you for your letter. I appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective. However, I must respectfully disagree with your characterization of events. My contribution of $35,000 was indeed a gift, given freely out of love for my son. What I expected in return was not special treatment, but basic human decency. I expected to be acknowledged, to be included, to not be treated as invisible. Your daughter spent months systematically excluding me from wedding planning. She dismissed my handmade gift as crafty. She seated me in the back corner with strangers, and she pretended not to know who I was when I arrived at the reception. These are facts, not opinions. My speech at the wedding was not about seeking recognition. It was about refusing to be erased. There is a difference. As for giving Daniel and Melissa space, I have no intention of forcing my presence on anyone. If my son wants a relationship with me, he knows where to find me. But I will not apologize for speaking the truth. I wish you all well. Sincerely, Helen Morrison. I mailed the letter and felt a small sense of satisfaction. But the satisfaction faded quickly, because Daniel still wasn't speaking to me, and I was starting to wonder if he ever would again. 2 weeks after the wedding, I was at the grocery store when I ran into one of Daniel's college friends, someone who'd been at the wedding. "Mrs. Morrison, I've been wanting to talk to you." "Hello, Brian. I just wanted to say, what you did at the wedding was brave. My wife and I were talking about it afterward, and we both agreed that you were treated terribly." "Thank you, that means more than you know. I've known Daniel since freshman year of college, and I've watched him change since he met Melissa. He's become, I don't know how to say this, he's become someone who cares more about status than about people." "That's a harsh thing to say about your friend." "But it's true. He used to be down to earth. Now he only wants to associate with wealthy, successful people. It's like he's embarrassed by where he came from." "Embarrassed by me, you mean?" "Maybe, I don't know. But Mrs. Morrison, you deserve better. And I hope Daniel realizes that before it's too late." After Brian walked away, I stood in the produce section thinking about what he'd said. Had I raised a son who was embarrassed by me, by my working class background, by my modest lifestyle? When had that happened? When had Daniel gone from being the boy who was proud of his hardworking mother to being the man who let his wife pretend not to know me? That evening, I decided to do something I'd been avoiding. I looked at the wedding hashtag on social media. There were hundreds of photos. Melissa and Daniel looking perfect, the gorgeous venue, the elaborate decorations. And in the comments, I found discussions about the mother-in-law who made a scene. Some people defended me. If she paid $35,000 and was treated like that, I'd have said something too. Others attacked me. Attention-seeking behavior, so tacky, you don't air dirty laundry at a wedding. But one comment caught my attention, from someone named at TruthSeeker419. I was there. I sat next to the groom's mother at table 18. She seemed like a nice, normal lady. She tried to talk to people, but everyone ignored her. Then during dinner, I heard her crying quietly. When Melissa's father gave his toast about how generous they'd been with the wedding, the mother's face just broke. That's when I realized something was seriously wrong. Her speech wasn't out of nowhere. It was coming from a place of real pain. I felt tears forming. This stranger had seen my pain, had witnessed my quiet devastation before I'd even said a word. 3 weeks after the wedding, Daniel finally called. "Mom, we need to talk." "Okay. Can I come over?" "Of course." He arrived an hour later, alone. No Melissa. We sat in my living room, the living room in the house I'd mortgaged for his wedding. "Mom, I owe you an apology." I waited. "I've spent the last 3 weeks thinking about everything, about how we treated you, about the wedding, about your speech. And you were right about most of it. Melissa did exclude you. She did dismiss your gift. She did treat you like you weren't important. Why did you let her?" He looked down, because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? Of where I came from, of not having money, of you being a secretary while Melissa's parents are wealthy and successful. I thought if I could just blend into their world, I could leave my old life behind. "Your old life, you mean me?" "I don't mean it like that." "Yes, you do. You were embarrassed by your working-class mother, so you let your wife erase me." "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Does Melissa know you're here?" "No, she doesn't want me to reconcile with you. She says you humiliated her, that you owe her an apology." "I don't owe her anything. She owes me." "I know, but she doesn't see it that way." "What about you? Do you expect me to apologize?" He was quiet for a long moment. "No, I don't. You spoke the truth. It was uncomfortable in public, but it was true." "So where does that leave us?" "I don't know, Mom. Melissa is my wife, but you're my mother. I'm caught in the middle." "Daniel, you're not caught in the middle. You made a choice. You chose Melissa's comfort over my dignity. You chose wealth and status over loyalty to the woman who raised you. That was your choice." "I know, and I'm trying to make it right." "How? By visiting me in secret, by keeping our relationship hidden from your wife." "I don't know how to fix this." "Maybe you start by standing up to Melissa, by telling her that treating your mother like garbage isn't acceptable, by insisting she apologize to me." She'll never apologize. You don't know her like I do. She's stubborn. Then you have a decision to make, Daniel. You need to decide what kind of man you want to be. The kind who stands up for what's right, even when it's hard. Or the kind who lets his wife dictate his relationships with his own family. He looked tortured. Why does it have to be all or nothing? Can't we just move forward? Move forward how? With you visiting me in secret while Melissa pretends I don't exist. With me never being welcome in your home. With my future grandchildren not knowing who I am. Future grandchildren. Yes, Daniel. What happens when you have children? Will they know their grandmother? Or will Melissa tell them I'm some distant relative nobody talks about? He hadn't thought about that. I could see it on his face. Mom, I need time to figure this out, to work on my marriage. Take all the time you need. But Daniel, understand something. I'm not going to keep apologizing for speaking the truth. I'm not going to pretend that wedding was fine. And I'm not going to accept being treated as less than I am. He left shortly after that. I watched him drive away and wondered if I'd ever see him again. But the next day, something unexpected happened. I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Morrison, this is Janet Williams. I was a guest at your son's wedding. I'm a friend of Melissa's family. Hello. I wanted to reach out to you personally. I was mortified by how you were treated at that wedding, and I wanted you to know you're not alone. Several of us have been discussing what happened, and we all agree that Melissa's behavior was unacceptable. That's kind of you to say. It's more than kind words. We've confronted Melissa's parents about it. Some of us have distanced ourselves from the family because of how they handled it, and I wanted to make sure you knew your speech mattered. You made people think about how they treat others. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Validation. Maybe I hadn't ruined everything. Maybe I'd actually done something important. Maybe speaking truth, even uncomfortable, inconvenient truth, was worth the cost. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Over the next month, something strange started happening. People began reaching out to me. First, it was Janet Williams, the friend of Melissa's family who'd called to support me. Then it was other wedding guests who'd been disturbed by what they'd witnessed. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Sarah Chen. I sat at table 12 at the wedding. I just wanted to tell you that after your speech, my husband and I had a long conversation about how we treat his mother. We realized we've been taking her for granted. Thank you for that wake-up call. Helen, this is Robert Gardner. I'm Daniel's former business professor. I was appalled by how you were treated. I've reached out to Daniel to express my disappointment in his behavior. Mrs. Morrison, my name is Grace Ockhafer. I didn't know you before the wedding, but your speech moved me to tears. I've been in similar situations with my own daughter-in-law. Thank you for having the courage to speak up. These calls meant more to me than I could express, but they also created a problem. The story was spreading beyond the wedding guests. Someone had posted about the incident on a wedding shamming forum online. The post went viral. Bride pretends not to know groom's mother at wedding the mother helped pay for. Mother gives speech exposing everything. Who's in the wrong here? Thousands of comments poured in. The vast majority supported me. The mother is a queen. She funded their fantasy and they treated her like trash. That bride is disgusting. The audacity to take $35,000 and then act like the woman doesn't exist. I would have done more than just give a speech. I would have demanded my money back on the spot. But there were also cruel comments. The mother is attention-seeking and petty. You don't ruin someone's wedding over hurt feelings. She gave the money as a gift. You can't give gifts with strings attached and then complain when people don't worship you. The attention was overwhelming. Local news picked up the story. A reporter called asking for an interview. Mrs. Morrison, we'd like to feature your story on our evening news segment about family conflicts. No, thank you. This is private. But your story has resonated with thousands of people. Don't you want to share your perspective? I've said everything I needed to say. At the wedding. I declined all media requests. This wasn't about fame or attention. It was about my relationship with my son. 6 weeks after the wedding, Daniel came to see me again. This time, Melissa was with him. I opened the door and saw them standing there, Daniel looking uncomfortable, Melissa looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Can we come in?" Daniel asked. "Of course." We sat in the living room. The tension was thick enough to cut. Melissa spoke first. "Helen, I'm here because Daniel insisted we talk. I want you to know that I don't agree with this, but I'm willing to hear you out." "Hear me out? About what?" "About why you felt the need to ruin our wedding with your speech." I looked at Daniel. "Is this really why you're here? So Melissa can tell me I ruined her wedding?" "Mom, please, just listen. Melissa has some things she wants to say." Melissa continued, her voice cold. "I worked for 2 years planning that wedding. Every detail was carefully chosen. Every moment was orchestrated. And you destroyed it all in 5 minutes with your selfish speech." "Selfish? I spoke the truth." "Your truth, your perspective. Did you think about anyone else? About how your words would affect us? About the gossip and the social media posts and the judgment we've faced? Did you think about me when you pretended not to know who I was?" "I was overwhelmed. There were 200 guests. I didn't see you." "You looked directly at me. You heard me say your name. You chose to pretend you didn't know me." "That's your interpretation." "It's what happened, and you know it." Daniel interrupted. "Can we all just calm down? Mom, Melissa is willing to move forward, to try to build a relationship with you, but she needs you to understand how hurt she was by your speech." "How hurt she was? Daniel, are you hearing yourself? She hurt me first. She spent months excluding me. She dismissed my gift. She seated me in the back corner. She pretended not to know me. And I'm supposed to feel sorry that she was hurt when I finally spoke up." Melissa stood up. "I knew this was a waste of time. She's not sorry. She doesn't care that she ruined our wedding. She just wants to be the victim." "I am the victim, Melissa. You took my money and then erased me." "We didn't take your money. You offered it. You gave it as a gift. And now you're holding it over our heads like we owe you something." "I don't want you to owe me. I wanted you to respect me, to include me, to treat me like I mattered. You wanted to control our wedding. You wanted recognition for your money. You wanted everyone to know how generous you were." "No, I wanted my future daughter-in-law to acknowledge my existence." We were both shouting now. Daniel looked like he wanted to disappear. "This is exactly why I didn't want you more involved in the wedding," Melissa yelled. "You're dramatic and emotional, and you make everything about yourself." "I make everything about myself. You spent our entire first meeting pretending I didn't exist. You've spent 3 years treating me like I'm beneath you, and I'm the problem." "Yes, you are. You're bitter and jealous, and you can't stand that Daniel married someone from a good family." "A good family? You mean a wealthy family? That's what this is really about, isn't it? I'm not rich enough for you. I'm not sophisticated enough. I'm just a working-class widow who cleaned offices to put her son through school." "Exactly. You don't understand our world. You don't fit in. And instead of accepting that gracefully, you made a scene at our wedding." Daniel finally spoke up, but not to defend me. "Melissa, that's enough. We agreed to come here and try to resolve this calmly." "There's nothing to resolve, Daniel. Your mother will never accept me, and I'm done trying to please her." Melissa stormed out. Daniel stood there, torn between following his wife and staying with his mother. "Go," I said quietly. "Go after your wife." "Mom." "It's fine, Daniel. I understand. You made your choice." "It's not like that." "Yes, it is. You married someone who looks down on me, and you're okay with that. You've chosen her perspective over mine, so go, take care of your wife." He hesitated, then left. I watched through the window as they argued in my driveway. Melissa was gesturing angrily. Daniel was trying to calm her down. Finally, they got in their car and drove away. I sat alone in my living room and realized something painful. My son was gone, not physically, but emotionally. He'd chosen Melissa's world over mine, and I might never get him back. That evening, I called my friend Margaret. "Margaret, I think I've lost Daniel permanently. What happened? I told her about Melissa's visit, about the accusations, about Daniel leaving with Melissa. Helen, give him time. He's in a difficult position. He's been in a difficult position for 3 years. At some point, he has to choose, and he's chosen Melissa. You don't know that. I do. I saw it in his eyes. He's more afraid of upsetting her than he is of losing me. What are you going to do? I don't know. Maybe I accept that this is how it is. Maybe I stop fighting for a relationship that Daniel doesn't want. Don't give up on your son. I'm not giving up on him. I'm accepting reality. But accepting reality was harder than I'd expected. 2 months after the wedding, Daniel called. Mom, Melissa is pregnant. My heart simultaneously leaped and sank. Congratulations. I wanted you to hear it from me, before we announce it publicly. Thank you for telling me. Mom, about the baby. I know. I'm not expecting to be involved. I understand. It's not that we don't want you involved. Yes, it is, Daniel. Let's be honest. Melissa doesn't want me in your lives, and you're going along with it. So I'm not expecting to be a grandmother to this child, at least not in any meaningful way. That's not fair. It's reality. You haven't spoken to me in 2 months except for this phone call. You didn't invite me to Christmas. You didn't visit on my birthday. You've made it clear where I stand. We've been busy. You've been avoiding me, and that's fine. You have your life, I have mine. Mom, when the baby comes, things might be different. Melissa might soften. She might want her child to know their grandmother. Maybe, but I'm not holding my breath. Daniel, I love you. I always will. But I can't keep waiting for you to stand up for me. I can't keep hoping you'll choose our relationship over keeping Melissa happy. So I'm letting go. What does that mean? It means I'm not going to chase you anymore. If you want a relationship with me, you know where I am. But I'm done begging for scraps of attention from my own son. Mom. I have to go, Daniel. Congratulations on the baby. I mean that sincerely. I hung up before he could respond. Over the next few months, I focused on rebuilding my life. I joined a book club. I started volunteering at the local senior center. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while trying to be involved in Daniel's life. And slowly I started to feel like myself again. Not Daniel's mother, not the woman who'd made a scene at a wedding, just Helen. A woman with her own interests, her own friendships, her own value. 5 months after the wedding, I received an unexpected visitor. Patricia Henderson, Melissa's mother. Helen, may I come in? I was surprised but let her in. We sat in my living room. I owe you an apology, Patricia said. A real one, not the defensive letter we sent after the wedding. Go on. I've spent the past few months watching Melissa interact with other people, and I've realized something disturbing. My daughter is cruel, not just to you, but to anyone she perceives as beneath her. I could have told you that. I know, and I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner. I raised her to be confident, but somewhere along the way, confidence became arrogance. She treats service workers dismissively. She makes cutting remarks about people's appearances or financial situations. She's become someone I don't like very much. Why are you telling me this? Because I've tried to talk to her about how she treated you, and she refuses to accept any responsibility. She truly believes you were the villain, that you ruined her wedding out of spite. I ruined nothing. I told the truth. I know that now, and I want you to know, if you'd like to have a relationship with your grandchild when the baby comes, I'll support you, even if Melissa doesn't. How would that work? You can't force Melissa to let me see the baby. No, but I can make my position clear. I can tell her that excluding you is wrong, and I can offer to bring the baby to visit you, even if Melissa won't. That would cause problems in your relationship with your daughter. Perhaps, but it's the right thing to do. You're that child's grandmother. You deserve to be part of their life. After Patricia left, I felt hope for the first time in months. Maybe I wouldn't be completely shut out of my grandchild's life after all. 3 weeks later, Melissa had the baby. A girl. They named her Charlotte. I received a text from Daniel with a photo. Charlotte Grace Morrison, born 6 pounds 4 Oz, everyone healthy. I texted back, congratulations, she's beautiful. No invitation to visit. No discussion of meeting the baby, just a photo and silence. But 2 days later, Patricia called. Helen, I'm at the hospital with Melissa and the baby. Would you like to come meet Charlotte, just for a few minutes? Does Melissa know you're calling me? No, but she's asleep right now. You could come, meet the baby, and leave before she wakes up. It felt wrong, sneaking in to meet my own grandchild, but it was the only option I had. I went to the hospital. Patricia met me outside Melissa's room. She's been asleep for about 20 minutes. You probably have another 10 or 15 before she wakes up. I walked into the room quietly. Daniel was there, holding the baby. He looked up, startled. Mom, what are you doing here? Your mother-in-law invited me. I wanted to meet Charlotte. He looked torn, but handed me the baby. I held my granddaughter for the first time. She was tiny, perfect, with dark hair and Daniel's nose. Hello, Charlotte, I whispered. I'm your grandma, Helen. Tears rolled down my face. This beautiful child, my grandchild, who might grow up barely knowing me. Mom, Daniel said quietly, I'm sorry about all of it, about the wedding, about keeping you away, about choosing Melissa's comfort over our relationship. Then why are you still doing it? Because I don't know how to fix it. Melissa is adamant. She doesn't want you in our lives, and I don't know how to change her mind. You don't change her mind, Daniel. You make a decision. You tell her that your mother is part of your life, part of Charlotte's life, and that's non-negotiable. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. It's exactly that simple. But you have to decide what matters more, Melissa's approval or your relationship with me. Melissa stirred in the bed. Daniel, who are you talking to? She opened her eyes and saw me holding Charlotte. What is she doing here? Get her out. Get her away from my baby. Melissa, calm down. No, she doesn't get to be here. She doesn't get to meet Charlotte. Get her out. A nurse rushed in. Ma'am, you need to keep your voice down. There are other patients. This woman is trespassing. She's not welcome here. I handed Charlotte back to Daniel. I'm leaving. I'm sorry for the disruption. I walked out quickly, Patricia following me. I'm so sorry, Helen. I thought we'd have more time. It's not your fault. Thank you for trying. I left the hospital and cried all the way home. That evening, I received a text from Daniel. I'm sorry about what happened at the hospital. Melissa is very upset. I think it's best if you don't try to visit again. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I'd met my granddaughter for exactly 3 minutes, and I might never see her again. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for Daniel to choose me. Hopping Melissa would soften, accepting crumbs of contact. I needed to move forward with my life, with or without my son and granddaughter in it. But then, something unexpected happened that would change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 weeks after Charlotte's birth, I received a certified letter from an attorney. My hands shook as I opened it. Was Melissa suing me? For what? Speaking at her wedding. But the letter wasn't from Melissa's attorney. It was from Daniel's business attorney, Martin Fletcher, someone I'd met once years ago when Daniel started his company. Dear Mrs. Morrison, I am writing to inform you of a matter requiring your immediate attention. 7 years ago, you provided Daniel Morrison with $15,000 to help start his consulting business. At that time, Daniel signed a promissory note indicating this was a loan, not a gift, and would be repaid within 5 years. The loan is now 2 years overdue. Additionally, 3 years ago, you provided $35,000 toward Daniel's wedding expenses, which was also documented as a loan to be repaid within 5 years. I have copies of both promissory notes with Daniel's signature. As Daniel's business attorney, I am obligated to inform you that these loans remain unpaid and are legally enforceable. While I understand this is a family matter, I wanted you to be aware of your legal rights should you choose to pursue repayment. Please contact my office if you wish to discuss this matter further. Sincerely, Martin Fletcher-esque. I read the letter 3 times, my mind racing. Promissory notes. I didn't remember signing any formal documents. Daniel had just asked for help, and I'd given it. But clearly, Daniel had documented these as loans, which meant he'd always intended to pay me back, or at least he'd acknowledged legally that he should. I called Martin Fletcher's office. Mr. Fletcher, this is Helen Morrison. I received your letter about the promissory notes. Ah, Mrs. Morrison, thank you for calling. I wanted to make sure you were aware of these documents. I didn't know they existed. Daniel never mentioned formal loan agreements. That's unfortunate. But yes, when you provided the $15,000 for his business, Daniel had me draw up a promissory note. He said he wanted everything to be official and proper. The same thing happened with the wedding contribution. Why are you telling me this now? Because I recently reviewed Daniel's business finances. He's doing quite well. The company is very profitable. He has the means to repay you, but he hasn't made any payments toward either loan. As his attorney, I felt obligated to inform you of your rights. What are my rights? You could demand immediate repayment. You could take him to small claims court for the $15,000 and civil court for the $35,000. With the promissory notes, you'd almost certainly win. Plus interest. The notes specify 5% annual interest. I did the math in my head. The $15,000 from 7 years ago would now be about $20,000 with interest. The $35,000 from 3 years ago would be about $40,000. Daniel owed me $60,000. Mr. Fletcher, why are you really calling? What's your angle here? He was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Morrison, I was at Daniel's wedding. I saw what happened. I heard your speech. And I've watched Daniel change over the past few years, becoming more focused on wealth and status, less focused on integrity. I don't like what I'm seeing. So this is what? A wake-up call for Daniel? Partially, but it's also me making sure you know that you have options. You sacrificed for your son. You deserve to be repaid, legally and morally. What does Daniel know about this letter? Nothing yet. I wanted to contact you first. But Mrs. Morrison, I should tell you, Daniel has been discussing with me the possibility of buying a vacation home. He's planning to spend $300,000 on a lake house. My heart sank. Daniel had $300,000 to spend on a vacation home, but hadn't paid me back a single dollar of the $50,000 he owed me. Thank you for letting me know, Mr. Fletcher. What would you like me to do? Let me think about it. I'll call you back. I spent the next 3 days wrestling with what to do. On one hand, Daniel was my son. Taking him to court felt like declaring war on our relationship, what little remained of it. On the other hand, he owed me $60,000 with interest, money I desperately needed. My home equity loan payments were straining my fixed income, and Daniel was planning to buy a vacation home while leaving me struggling. I called Margaret. Daniel owes me $60,000 in documented loans. His attorney just informed me. What should I do? Oh, Helen, what do you want to do? Part of me wants to demand repayment. To show Daniel there are consequences for taking me for granted, but part of me is terrified of losing him completely. You've already lost him, honey. He's chosen Melissa over you repeatedly. Maybe it's time to choose yourself. She was right. I'd spent my entire life choosing Daniel, sacrificing for Daniel, and he'd repaid me by erasing me from his life. I called Martin Fletcher. I want to pursue repayment, send Daniel a formal demand letter, give him 30 days to repay the full amount with interest. Are you sure? This will likely damage your relationship further. Mr. Fletcher, there's no relationship left to damage. My son hasn't spoken to me in weeks. He's kept me from my grandchild. He's planning to buy a vacation home while I struggle with debt. I'm done sacrificing for someone who doesn't value me. I understand. I'll send the letter today. 2 days later, Daniel called. He was furious. "Mom, what the hell is this? A demand letter from my own attorney. You're suing me." "I'm not suing you yet. I'm demanding repayment of loans you legally owe me." "Those were gifts." "Then why did you sign promissory notes?" "Because Martin insisted on documentation for business purposes. But I never intended to actually pay you back. You're my mother." "Exactly. I'm your mother. And you owe me $60,000 that I gave you when I could barely afford it. Money I borrowed against my house. Money that's still costing me hundreds of dollars a month in payments. I don't have $60,000 just lying around. You have $300,000 to buy a lake house." Silence. "How do you know about that?" "Your attorney told me. Daniel, you have the money. You just don't want to pay me back because you see me as less important than a vacation home." "That's not fair." "What's not fair is taking $50,000 from your mother and never paying it back. What's not fair is letting your wife treat me like garbage. What's not fair is keeping me from my grandchild. None of this is fair, Daniel, but it's reality. If you pursue this legally, we're done. Completely done. You'll never see Charlotte. You'll never be part of our lives." "I'm already not part of your lives, so you're not threatening me with anything I haven't already lost." "Mom, please, don't do this." "Pay me back, Daniel. That's all I'm asking. Pay me what you legally owe me." "I need time." "You have 30 days. After that, I'm filing in civil court." I hung up before he could respond. Over the next week, I received multiple calls from people trying to convince me to drop the demand. Melissa called, which surprised me. "Helen, you're being vindictive. You're using money to manipulate Daniel." "I'm asking for repayment of legal loans. That's not manipulation." "You gave that money freely. You can't take it back now." "I didn't give it freely. Daniel signed documents promising to repay me, with interest. I'm simply enforcing those agreements." "You're trying to ruin us financially." "No, Melissa, I'm trying to survive financially. Those loan payments are killing my budget. But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? You've never had to worry about money." She hung up on me. Patricia called next. "Helen, I support you standing up for yourself, but are you sure about this? Taking Daniel to court could permanently destroy your relationship." "Patricia, there is no relationship. Daniel has made his choice. Now I'm making mine." "What about Charlotte? Don't you want to be part of her life?" "Of course I do. But I can't keep sacrificing everything for the possibility that maybe someday Daniel will let me see my grandchild. I have to take care of myself." "I understand. And for what it's worth, I think Daniel owes you this money, morally and legally." Even some of Daniel's friends reached out. Brian, the college friend I'd run into, called. "Mrs. Morrison, I heard about the demand letter. I think you're doing the right thing." "Really?" "Yes, Daniel has become entitled and selfish. Maybe this will wake him up, show him there are consequences for his actions." "I hope so, but I'm not holding my breath." 25 days after the demand letter was sent, Daniel showed up at my house with a check. "Here, $60,000, full repayment with interest." I took the check, examining it carefully. It was legitimate, drawn on Daniel's business account. "Thank you." "Are you happy now? You got your money, you got to punish me. Are you satisfied?" "This isn't about punishment, Daniel. It's about you fulfilling your legal obligations." "It's about you being vindictive. You're trying to hurt me and Melissa." "No, I'm trying to pay off a home equity loan that's been crushing me financially for 3 years. A loan I took out so you could have a fancy wedding." "A wedding you ruined with your speech." "A wedding where your wife pretended not to know me. We can keep going in circles about this, Daniel, but the fact remains you owed me money. Now you've paid it, that's all." "Is it? Because it feels like you're trying to drive a wedge between Melissa and me." "I don't need to drive a wedge. Melissa did that herself when she treated me like trash." "Why can't you just let it go? Why can't you move on?" "I am moving on. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm moving on with my life, with financial stability, without constantly hopping you'll choose to include me." So that's it, we're done. That's up to you. I'm not keeping you from having a relationship with me, but I'm also not going to beg for one. What about Charlotte? Don't you want to see her? Of course I want to see her, but only if I'm actually welcome, not if I have to sneak into hospital rooms or beg for 5-minute visits. Daniel stood there, clearly wanting to say more but not knowing what. Finally, he said, Melissa will never forgive you for this, for the wedding speech or the demand letter. She sees you as the enemy. Then I guess she's made her position clear, and so have you by standing by her. He left without another word. I deposited the check the next day, immediately paid off the home equity loan. For the first time in 3 years, I was free of that monthly payment. The relief was overwhelming. Not just financial relief, but emotional relief. I'd stood up for myself. I demanded what I was owed, and I'd gotten it. 2 months passed. No contact from Daniel, no photos of Charlotte, nothing. It hurt, but it also felt liberating. I wasn't waiting anymore, wasn't hopping, wasn't constantly checking my phone for messages that never came. Then, on a Tuesday morning, Patricia called. Helen, something's happened. Something big. I need to come talk to you. She arrived 30 minutes later, looking distressed. What's wrong? Melissa and Daniel are separating. I sat down, stunned. What? They've been fighting constantly since the demand letter. Melissa is furious that Daniel paid you. She says he chose his mother over her. Daniel says he was just fulfilling a legal obligation. It escalated. They're talking about divorce. Because of me. Not entirely. I think your situation exposed deeper problems in their marriage. Daniel has been increasingly uncomfortable with how Melissa treats people. The demand letter forced him to confront that you've been right all along. Melissa does look down on anyone she perceives as beneath her. I never wanted them to divorce. I know, but Helen, maybe this is for the best. Melissa has been terrible to you, and honestly, she's not a good partner for Daniel. She's controlling, dismissive, and cruel. He deserves better. What about Charlotte? That's why I'm here. Daniel wants to see you. He wants to talk. The next day, Daniel came to my house. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, disheveled clothes. Mom, I'm sorry about everything. About Melissa, about the wedding, about keeping you from Charlotte, about all of it. What changed? The demand letter changed things. When you stood up for yourself, when you demanded repayment, it made me realize something. You're not weak. You're not someone to be dismissed. You're strong and principled, and I've been treating you terribly. So it took me demanding $60,000 for you to respect me. No, it took me losing $60,000, money I could have used for the lake house, for me to realize what I'd been doing. I'd been prioritizing status and wealth and Melissa's approval over my relationship with you, and that was wrong. Why are you and Melissa separating? Because after the demand letter, we had a huge fight. She said I should have refused to pay you, that I should have let you sue me. That family doesn't matter as much as our financial goals, and I realized, I don't want to be married to someone who thinks like that. Daniel, I don't want to be responsible for your divorce. You're not. Melissa's attitudes are responsible. Her treatment of you just made it obvious. Mom, she said horrible things about you, things I should never have tolerated. She's called you that cleaning lady and Daniel's embarrassing past and worse. And I let her. I'm ashamed. What happens now? I'm filing for separation. We'll share custody of Charlotte. And Mom, I want you to be part of Charlotte's life. A real part. Not sneaking into hospital rooms or 5-minute visits. I want you to be her grandmother. What about Melissa? She can't stop me from bringing Charlotte to visit you during my custody time. And honestly, I think once we're separated, once she doesn't have to worry about your influence on our marriage, she might relax about the whole thing. Over the next few months, Daniel and Melissa separated. The divorce proceedings were contentious. Melissa was furious and vindictive. But Daniel held firm. He got 50-50 custody of Charlotte, and every week during his custody days, he brought Charlotte to visit me. I got to know my granddaughter, hold her, read to her, watch her grow. She was 9 months old now, starting to crawl, starting to babble. And slowly, carefully, Daniel and I rebuilt our relationship. It wasn't the same as before, there was still hurt, still wariness. But it was honest, real, based on mutual respect rather than obligation. One evening, 6 months after the separation, Daniel said something surprising. "Mom, I've been thinking about the wedding, about your speech." "What about it?" "You were right, about all of it. I was embarrassed by you, by our background, by the fact that you were a secretary while Melissa's family was wealthy, and that shame made me complicit in how she treated you." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I want you to know, that wedding speech wasn't you ruining my wedding. It was you telling a truth I needed to hear, a truth that ultimately saved me from a marriage that would have made me miserable." "I never wanted to ruin anything." "You didn't ruin anything. You exposed something that was already broken. And yes, it was painful and public and uncomfortable, but it was necessary. If you hadn't spoken up, I might have spent decades in that marriage, becoming more and more like Melissa, more and more distant from you." "So you're saying I did you a favor?" "In a weird way, yes. You loved me enough to tell the truth even when it cost you our relationship. That's real love, not the enabling, people-pleasing kind. The tough, honest kind." I felt tears forming. I thought I'd lost you forever. "You did lose me, for a while. But Mom, sometimes people need to be lost before they can be found. I needed to lose you to understand what I'd thrown away. And now that I've found my way back, I'm not letting go again." A year after the wedding, I received an unexpected call from Melissa. "Helen, it's Melissa. I know you probably don't want to hear from me." "What do you want?" "I want to apologize, really apologize. Not the defensive, justifying version from before, a real apology." "I'm listening." "I treated you terribly. From the moment I met you, I looked down on you because you weren't wealthy or sophisticated or part of the social circle I aspired to. And when you called me out at the wedding, instead of taking responsibility, I doubled down. I tried to make you the villain." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I've been in therapy, a lot of therapy, and I've had to confront some ugly truths about myself. I'm classist. I'm elitist. I judge people based on their money and status, and I hurt you because of those prejudices." "Thank you for acknowledging that." "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know I'm working on changing, and I want Charlotte to have a relationship with you. You're her grandmother. She should know you." "Daniel already brings her to visit me." "I know, but I want to support that, not fight it. And Helen, your speech at the wedding, it haunts me. Not because you humiliated me, but because everything you said was true, and I needed to hear it." After we hung up, I sat there processing what had just happened. Melissa had apologized, genuinely apologized. It didn't erase the past, didn't undo the hurt, but it was something. 2 years after the wedding, I was at Daniel's apartment. He'd moved into a modest 2-bedroom after the separation, celebrating Charlotte's 2nd birthday. Patricia was there, some of Daniel's friends, and surprisingly, Melissa, who'd driven Charlotte over and stayed for cake. It was awkward but civil. Melissa and I didn't talk much, but when Charlotte toddled over to me calling Gamma, Gamma, Melissa smiled. "She loves you. Daniel says you're her favorite person." "I love her too. She's a special little girl." "I'm sorry I tried to keep you from her. I was wrong about a lot of things." "Thank you for saying that." After everyone left, Daniel and I sat on his balcony while Charlotte napped. "Mom, I have something for you." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $15,000. "What's this?" "Interest on the loans you gave me. You charged 5% interest on the promissory notes, but I only paid you the minimum required. This is the additional interest you should have received over the years, plus a little extra." "Daniel, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You sacrificed everything for me. The least I can do is make sure you're financially secure. And Mom, I've set up a trust for Charlotte, $100,000 for her education, so she'll never need to take out loans like I did, so she'll never need to ask her parent to mortgage their house for her." I started crying. That's wonderful. I learned from the best. You taught me about sacrifice, about putting your child first. I forgot those lessons for a while, but I remember them now. We sat there watching the sunset, and I thought about everything that had happened. The wedding, the speech, the separation, the loans, the rebuilding. It had been a painful, difficult journey, but we'd come out the other side. I'd stood up for myself, demanded respect, refused to be erased. And yes, it had cost me. My relationship with Daniel had been damaged, possibly permanently. But standing up for myself had also saved me, had shown Daniel what real strength looked like, had forced uncomfortable truths into the light. At the wedding I'd helped pay for, my daughter-in-law had pretended not to know me. But when the toasts began, I'd spoken truth. And that truth had changed everything. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. "Mom," Daniel said, breaking the comfortable silence, "thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. For loving me enough to tell the truth even when it hurt. For being the kind of mother who demands respect instead of just hopping for it. You're my son. I'll always love you." "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know how much that means, how much you mean." Charlotte woke up from her nap and came toddling out to the balcony. She climbed into my lap, sticky hands and all. "Gamma book." "Yes, sweetheart, let's read a book." As I read to my granddaughter, with my son sitting beside me, I realized something important. I'd gone to that wedding expecting to be erased, to be invisible, to be unimportant. Instead, I'd made myself unforgettable, not by staying quiet, but by speaking up. And yes, it had been messy, uncomfortable, public. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be erased. Refuse to accept being treated as less than you are. Refuse to smile and nod when people try to make you invisible. Sometimes you have to speak up, especially when everyone is watching. Because the truth matters, your dignity matters, you matter. And no wedding, no matter how expensive or beautiful, is worth sacrificing that. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.